Hello and welcome to Library Drawing Party. Today we're going to be drawing this beautiful hibiscus. To get started, we're going to be taking our colored pencil. In my case, I'm going to be using a watercolor color pencil because I want to use watercolors for the background. But you can also use regular colored pencil and just use a watercolor wash over it. So I'm going to start with my orange watercolor pencil. And let's start with this big petal over here. Hibiscus has got these big petals. They almost look like leaves. We have a half circle and then some curved lines on the side. Then another half circle. Then a kind of triangle shape down here. And I just want to outline the petals first before I add any base coats. And I'm doing this in my orange because if I make a mistake, I can just color right over it with my orange. And especially with the watercolor pencils, it'll get blended all together. And let's draw a side here. We have like a backwards S. And so this is like an S here, and then there's like another half circle that connects with this one. We have some half circles on the side, which connects to the bottom of our petal. Then we have some more over here, another curvy line, and then the back petal, and then there's the big U, except in this case the U connects here, but that's not a problem. We can even just add another petal behind it. Alright, then we have our pistil with all these little, almost like branches coming out. And they all have little dots on the edge for the pollen. Just draw those dots. There's some coming out in front too. Then let's have this line for this petal come in front. Then let's have a petal here. Let's have this petal come out. And the back petal. In the front, let's give this some more definition. And then this one on the, so there's the main hibiscus, and then there's like another hibiscus coming off the bottom. So let's draw that one. So we have a couple of half circles, and then there's the main petal, and there's another petal right next to it. Maybe you see some of the pistil. Alright, then let's take our yellow and add some highlights to the middle. In this flower, the lightest part is in the center, and then it gets more colorful as it goes out. So we want yellows to be brightest in the center. And maybe we add in some more dots for the pollen. Let's go back and take our orange and add in our base coat. Now, if you're working with regular colored pencils, you might want to do this a bit more liberally, since I'm going to be doing a wash of water over this to bring out the watercolor part. I'm not going to cover it extensively, so this really depends on what materials you're working with. You can also put a base coat down with regular watercolors, and then if you're going to add in some detail like we will in a minute, you're going to want to wait for that to completely dry before adding any more colored pencils on top of it, but that's certainly an option. Then let's do the watercolor pencils down for the bottom. And let's take our red, and the pistol is pretty bright, so I want to add in some more red color to that. I also want to add in some shading along these edges here. I'm using my red pencil for this. You can also see the veins of the petals pretty well. I'm going to draw those in now. Those are the closest to you, so you would see them better than the others. Might want to take a sandy color and blend things in a bit. Hibiscus are nice, bright flowers, so we don't need to be afraid of this being a very orange flower, but this helps give it some brown and some more texture. Now for the background, we're going to want to have some stems peeking through, so I'm taking my green and adding in some stems. So these are two lines similar to a tree trunk, and this is very zoomed in, so the stems are going to look fairly large. I'll have some coming off the page, some to the side. They're going in every direction. Maybe I want another one going this way. Alright, then I want this flower to have some leaves at the base, and then a pretty thick stem. Maybe hint at the stem for the other flower. And it's kind of hard to see, but there's a stem with a bud on the side. So let's draw the bud. So I'm going to take my orange and put in the tip of the bud, and then go back and take my green and draw the leaves that are opening up to the bud. Maybe you want to have more leaves coming off of the side. And then we're going to have a bunch of stems on this side. Now we want the flower to be in focus, and the background is going to be pretty out of focus. That way we can concentrate on the flower from the texture and not just from colors. This blue is pretty bright. So I'm going to be adding in my green foliage, adding in leaves, but they're not necessarily defined, and they're connected to the stems. But they're not necessarily different colors. You can have other flowers in the background too. They don't have to be hibiscus. Anything that you think might be growing in the garden with them would be a good option. Let's put some leaves on this side. This side got a bit too blue in my original sample drawing, so I'll help break it up a bit. Alright, then let's take a different color green. Now I'm going to work on this bud a bit more. I want this to be a nice big circle ready to bloom into a hibiscus. Take my orange, I'll bring out that color. So bring out the green, fill in any gaps. Add some more dimension with the different colors. Don't be afraid to go off the page. You're not going to be able to see everything. Alright, let's take our blue, using a fairly dark blue for this, so it'll be a nice contrast to the orange of the hibiscus, since orange and blue are complementary colors. Putting down my base coat of the blue. And if you're using watercolor pencils, it doesn't have to be perfect. If you're doing watercolor, just want to make sure your brush is fairly dry so you're not getting into your colored pencils too much. And if you're using regular colored pencils, you can put your base coat down like we're doing right now, and then you can layer on top of it until you're happy with the colors. And when you're finished, you can do the full force of your pencil in blue, or you could try something like purple or a different color blue. Actually add in some blue over here to keep it from being too separated. Our main foliage is on this side, but we don't want to lose that nice blue color. Alright, then I'm going to take my purple and add in some purple highlights for an unexpected pop of color. So we'll deepen the blue as well. Alright, once you have your base coat done, then we'll go in and add some water. When you're adding your water, you want to keep your brush pretty dry so that you can control where it's going on the page. But this is how we can start to blend the colors together. What's nice about the watercolor pencils is you'll still see the strokes underneath, but it has a nice blending effect. Especially here where we drew the veins, you want to make sure that you leave some of the veins visible and don't blend so much that they get lost. You'll notice that your brush will pick up some of the color. You might want to work from the lighter colors out. So in this case, you'll use the center and then work your way out, because you're picking up pigment as you go along. So we have the pencil strokes, we also have the brush strokes, and we want to make sure that they're going the direction that the petals would be going in. You can even smooth out your pistil. Let's work on our second hibiscus flower and see how the color pops. While our page is still wet, if you're working with watercolor pencils, you can add in some more detail. And any parts that look a little light, you can add in some more orange or red, depending on where you're working. If you're doing regular watercolors, you're going to want to wait until the drawing is completely dry to do this step. And then you can go ahead and add in those extra details. I lost a bit of my vein, so I'm going to add that back in. I'm going to brighten the lower hibiscus. Really bring out that orange color. Even add in some yellow. Maybe do some yellow highlights on the petals. Maybe do a bit more red along the bottom. Maybe some more red on the lower hibiscus. Okay, then I'm going to work on adding water to the background, but before I get too heavily involved in the background, I want to work on our bud. I'm drawing the stem, and then I'm going to, while my brush has the stem color on it, I want to work on the bottom of my hibiscus. I'm going to clean my brush and do the tip with the orange. Then I'm going to take my green and add in a bit more highlights. And down here as well. You don't want to completely lose the texture. You just want it to be a little bit smoother. Use this different green. Alright. I have a relatively dry brush and work on green of the stems and the leaves And concentrate on the green first, since that's going to be a little bit lighter than our blue. You just want to make sure your brush strokes are emphasizing the stems or the leaves. And clean the brush and go in and add some blue. Careful not to overlap too much with other sections. We want to keep that color bright. See, the purple blends right into it. And it just gives it a little bit more of an interesting color. Keeps it from being too flat. Alright, at this point I have my base coat painted. I'm going to add in some more color. I want to bring out the blue and then color right over that. We want those bright colors. Give it a nice tropical feel. Let's add in some more purple for a deeper tone. Add in some purple on the side, maybe for some shadow. Add in some more green color. This is looking a little light. Get right up to the edges. The drier the paper, the more texture you'll be able to add. Let's work on this side. I like the variation in color to add in a definitive leaf here. I'm going to blend my blue a bit more. Nice soft sky. Might even want to add in some black or dark brown to the sky. Add in some blue when I do that, which will help with the mixing. Take my brush and wet the page. I like how it's adding some texture to So let's look at our flower. Maybe we want to add in some more details with our orange. Maybe some long lines orange veins, maybe some more red. That's our hibiscus. Thank you for joining us in this week's library drawing party. We hope to see you again next week. We have library drawing parties every Wednesday at 7 p.m. and keep being creative.